Hello, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about why I believe mediumship is for everybody and anyone can benefit from mediumship. So, this will be a very interesting conversation. Would love it if you have any questions just to ask me in the comments or submit a question. You can always submit topics or themes, etc., to me for the podcast that I can answer. You can submit those directly on my Instagram. You can send me an email at thegardenmedium@gmail.com, or you can also do it through my website or my Facebook. So, mediumship is the art, ability, skill, gift, whatever you want to call it. It's the connection between a person who's living on earth and spirits, beings, and people who are deceased on the other side. It's quite a complicated topic, and if you haven't been introduced to it before, it can kind of seem out of reach. It might even seem a little bit loony or crazy, and a lot of people who practice mediumship struggle with those barriers and those stigmas because it's something that is tangible, real, and actually everyone and anyone is able to do mediumship themselves. It just takes skill and practice and intention and focus and openness, and not everyone has the ability to kind of tap into those skill sets. Whereas someone like myself, who is a practicing medium and has been communicating and convening and having all these weird spiritual experiences my entire life, I'm kind of more open than the average person, but anyone can learn how to do mediumship. So my definition of mediumship is connecting with the other side, connecting with people who are deceased. So we are all energy. The basis of this is that we are all energy. And we're just going to dive right in here. I'm going to skip the pleasantries and hellos, and we're just going to dive in because it's a big topic. Mediumship has been going on historically and studied scientifically for hundreds of years. This is nothing new. The only thing that's new about mediumship is that now we see it on TV and it's mainstream, and we have the Hollywood medium, what's his name, Tyler Henry, on the E! Network. He had a show on for years and years. He's primarily a clairvoyant medium, so he sees images and references and words and such like that as images in his mind. He is quite famous now, and it's because he's had a TV show reading for celebrities in California, out in LA. We have Teresa Caputo, who is known as the Long Island medium, and she's like the queen of TLC and has been for years and years. I believe she now has another show on the Lifetime network. I think it's Lifetime. But anyway, we have all these access points where we can kind of consume spiritual content now. And it's become something that, is not what mediumship truly is or what it used to be. We have to remember that everything that you watch on television is television. It's made for entertainment. Every couple seconds of a television show is completely edited. That's not to say that the connections aren't real or these people are frauds or scaring people. I genuinely believe, having looked at both of their bodies of work quite extensively, that they are mediums, but a true mediumship reading doesn't always have, these like wow moments and things like that. Sometimes it depends on the person who comes through. The communication is always different. I find that the healing that comes through in a mediumship reading is a lot more unique and intimate when it's a one-on-one reading. And it's definitely a talent to read on television. It's a talent to have group readings. I've done a few group readings before, and the energy is great. I love the energy of a group reading because everyone is excited to be there. They're so much enjoying hearing other people's connections, enjoying their own connection, and actually seeing a medium work in real time versus work on TV is completely different. You can feel the energy, whether we're in a room doing a group reading or we're on Zoom doing a private one-on-one. It's just me and that other person. So together, we're cultivating enough energy as a collective, as kind of a team, me being the medium and the client being the sitter, receiving the mediumship, to collectively bring the vibe up, allow myself to expand my energy and my aura to be able to blend with things that I'm not seeing. So the way that my mediumship works is that I'm connecting through what I call my spirit senses. So the best way I can describe that is we have our senses here on earth. We have our sight, we have our smell, we have our taste, we have hearing, we have touch. One of the spiritual senses is actually known as like our sixth sense. If anyone's ever seen that movie, The Sixth Sense, it basically has to do with following your intuition. And that's something that every person is gifted, is their own intuition, their own knowing. Maybe you've been in a sticky or potentially dangerous situation and there's something in your gut instinct, or I'm going to follow my gut. That's saying I'm going to follow my gut. You're actually following your instinct. That's a spirit sense. The way that I communicate primarily is through clairsentience, and that's through my own energy body. So I'm able to feel how someone has passed, how someone has felt before they passed, depending on where they send energy to different points in my body. For example, I have a few different symbols that spirit will use to communicate to me things about themselves that I can communicate to the sitter. So for example, if someone was bedridden or especially in a wheelchair and didn't have full movement, my legs will go numb during a session. And then I'll say, did your grandfather was in a wheelchair? Was he in a wheelchair before death? Yes, he was. Well, that's because I've now trained myself and learned and communicated enough with spirit to know that when my legs go numb, that means that they weren't able to walk right before they lived or right before they died. And while they lived, they had limited movement. So that's through my energy body. I can also feel people's emotions, whether that be like the client sitting in front of me. I can easily feel the person's emotions. And that's why I primarily work across Zoom. I personally find it, because I'm an extreme sensitive being, I'm an extreme empath. If I'm in a room with someone and they're going through grief or anger or any of these strong kind of negative emotions that can just kind of take the air up in the room and consume the energy, I find that personally distracting in my work, and I have to stay independent from attaching onto my sitter emotionally. So through Zoom works for me the best. That way all of my energy body can actually attach onto the spirit who I'm trying to communicate with. I also communicate with spirit clairvoyantly, just like Tyler Henry, the medium I was talking about previously, who's also clairvoyant. I'll get flashes of a memory. Sometimes I'll get objects. Sometimes I'll actually see in my mind words. Sometimes I'll even hear sounds, all these different things. I had a taste once in my mouth as I was talking to a client about her grandmother. And it just came to me that I was literally tasting bread and butter. And that was the first time I've ever tasted anything, and spirit has ever communicated anything through my taste sense. So I actually was able to ask, I'm tasting bread and butter. Like, is that a core memory with her? Like, does that make sense? Because I haven't eaten bread and butter today. I don't know what this is. And the client said, oh my gosh, yes. Like it was a staple for her to specifically bake bread. And we had our best talks over toast with butter. And like, that's a very core memory of mine. So that was extremely validating. Mind you, every medium works differently. That's just how I personally work. So that's my experience as a medium on one side of a mediumship reading. On the other side of the mediumship reading is the sitter. It's the client. It's you who's getting the reading from a medium. So what is the experience like for a sitter who maybe it's their first time I get people all the time who it's their first time for mediumship. And even if they aren't new to mediumship and have had a reading before, every experience with a medium is different because every medium is different. You're getting a unique experience every time. The experience from a sitter's point of view, and I can speak to this just because of my own knowledge and my own time as a sitter myself, is that the primary emotion that first comes up is excitement, it's nerves, it's energy, it's, oh my gosh, I wonder what's going to come through today. Or maybe I'm a sitter who's seeking guidance, life guidance. Maybe I just got out of a tough relationship. Maybe I'm debating on moving somewhere. Maybe I just had a child and my life has turned upside down. I'm a little lost. Maybe I'm going through deep grief. Maybe I just lost a pet. All of these different things come wrapped up as a person, as a sitter, and you bring those experiences with you to your mediumship reading. So as a sitter's point of view, the medium will go through an introduction. My introduction looks very similar to, I'm here to give you everything I get today from spirit. It's my job not to interpret what I'm getting, but filter it through my life experiences and my signs and symbols that I've learned from spirit over my time being a medium. I will then convey this information to you. You can say yes or no to any information, and that will help us work as a team to narrow down who we're talking to and what the messages are and get right to the reading. The only expectation that I personally have for my sitters is just to be open to the information. How often I get sitters who are so excited to be there, and they're so open and they're so just willing to see what happens, not to believe everything. I'm not asking you to believe everything. I'm also a skeptical person. And if I wasn't able to do this, I would be very skeptical of mediumship. But I've learned through my own experiences just to take it as it comes. So what I'll always say to clients and sitters, I'll say, I just ask you that you be open to this experience and let's just see where we go. I want you to trust me and trust that you're in good care. If you get emotional for any reason, or if a touchy subject comes up that you don't want to talk about, whether it be traumatic, emotional, etc., just let me know and we can skirt past it. You are also a passenger on this car that we're riding together. I'm the driver of the car, but you're also in the car and do have a say. After the reading is done, I do allow, I think it's like 5 to 8 minutes, the last couple of minutes of a reading, for the sitter to then turn some questions on to me. You can ask me any questions you want, whether that be about your own spiritual development. A lot of people honestly just want to talk about their own spiritual experiences, because I think, and like from my point of view, this is like one of the only safe spaces that people have to like explore that side of themselves and just to ask questions with someone who's not going to be judgmental. I've had some crazy, amazing, beautiful experiences that have been so random and sometimes like that has leave me speechless. Like I literally don't know how to describe them, with spirit or ghosts or souls or whatever the label that you want to have, energies, things like that. We all have these kind of weird experiences, and what society has taught us is to kind of like shrug them off, and our overactive brain kind of like kicks in and we start over explaining the experiences that we're having, and we explain it away. And what we're really doing is we're hijacking our own spiritual experience, because we are humans, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience. There is an infinite part of ourselves that is in us that's not physical. Yes, we have the physical world around us, we have our bodies, things like that. But there's also, a soul in everyone. Everyone has deep intelligence, emotional intelligence, reverence for the world around them, has a great expansion of emotion. And us kind of explaining away these little coincidences or synchronicities, or if we're thinking about a loved one in spirit and something comes up that reminds you of them, or you get an inspiration, you get the chills, you feel a hug as if someone's hugging you, no one's around. I've personally have had experiences where I've seen things move in the room and things like that, and that can be scary if you don't understand what it is. And what Hollywood has done an amazing freaking job of is scaring the shit out of people when they have these unique, beautiful experiences and thinking that they're bad. If we take one experience, say for example, I don't know, I was thinking of an example here. Say for example, I'm sitting in my room and I see something move in the room just like slightly on the shelf, which I have seen. So the example I'm thinking of is I was in my room one time when I was 13, 14, and I had a can of Pepsi on the desk. And I probably was kind of sad or lonely because a lot of my spiritual experiences happen when I'm just like down in the dumps. And I looked over, something inspired me to look over to the desk, and I'm not lying when I say this. I physically watched this pop can move 6 inches sliding across my desk. And I remember thinking, that was weird. And I didn't immediately jump into fear or panic. I just thought, that's weird. And I kind of moved on to my day, because I've learned through all of these experiences in my life is that you don't need to be afraid of these things. So at the end of a mediumship reading, when I turn it over to the sitter and they can ask me questions, they're asking me about their own spiritual experiences, or they want clarity on something that happened in the reading, or they have a question or anything like that. But I can go on and on about all the different stories I have had with spirit, and I'll have to make several podcasts of it because some of them are quite long. I've had spiritual experiences with my pets, especially with pets, because I'm very close with my animals, and every time they die, I just get devastated, and I see a lot of that in clients as well. I've actually had animals come through multiple times and take over the reading. Like I had, I think it was 3 different girls this year come to me wanting to speak to a dead pet. And I always say I'm primarily not an animal communicator, but let's see what comes through. And every single time, 3 out of 3 of those women all had exclusive readings just of their pets. So it definitely is possible. But let's talk about some shifting perspectives that come with mediumship. So when we think about the spirit body, we think about expanding our consciousness, being curious about the world around us. Like I mentioned before, it's a unique part of the soul and body that we shouldn't be closing off. When we talk about spirituality and religion, they are 2 veins of basically the same origin. There's just 2 different beliefs, and that's fine. We can believe whatever we want, whatever resonates to us. That's the beauty of having life and having so many choices, is that you get to determine what is your truth. What's my truth is that I'm having these spiritual experiences, and I'm having people come to me saying that, once they have opened up and realized, and kind of like allowed themselves to explore that, they think about life differently. It's almost like if you've ever had a near-death experience, which I have had, and I won't get into that now, again, that will be a different episode, but if you've ever had a near-death experience, a lot of times you'll hear people come out and say, I'm looking at life differently. And what mediumship offers clients and people who have witnessed the power of mediumship is that actually life exists after death, and that there's something here, there's something weird here, that no one is ever going to understand the capital T truth until we all die ourselves and go somewhere else. Whether you believe in heaven, the other side, whatever you think that space looks like is different for everyone. My reaction and my thoughts to that is that we do go somewhere, and our loved ones do continue doing activities that they love to do here on earth. They really relive their memories. Sometimes they revert back to a different age. Oftentimes they're always with family, always with pets. I have had one soul come through, and she was the sister of a sitter I was having a reading for, and the sister in spirit came through and was joking that she had all the animals, and now she's the animal caregiver and joking about it and playing fetch with the dog. And that really meant a lot to the sitter, because the person who her sister was here on Earth was a dog lover, had a dog, loved to go hiking with the dog, just a dog person. And it really meant a lot to the sitter to hear that she was with the dog. So having these experiences, you go about life differently. And for a lot of people, it helps them cope with grief and cope with the healing process that it takes once you lose somebody. And when you think about the accumulation of all these experiences, what you actually land on is the human curiosity of trying to understand where we come from. We have all this fascination with space. We have these big tech companies now building spacecrafts to explore, to figure it out. What is the answer? Are we alone? Where actually are we? What is space? What's on these different planets? What's going on? And the root cause of that is that no one knows what's going on. And if you think about it too much, it can kind of scare someone a bit. But that's why we have these spiritual experiences to ground us, to give us information, to give us reassurance and love and confidence that there is something after this physical life. And whether it's out in space, whether it's in us, whether it's already around us, if you believe in the, not like the Matrix theory, but like interdimensional theory where everything at once, all the time, anywhere is happening at once. That's a whole nother theory. But there's something innate in the human condition that we need to figure out what is going on. Where are we? Why are we here on this planet? What is the purpose? Where do we come from? Where do we go? And what mediumship does is it offers a bridge to that question and to us here on Earth. It offers an experience to give someone that is just searching. And oftentimes what I find when clients are in deep grief, all they're doing is searching for anything, grasping at straws, looking for a sign. Nope, that sign wasn't good enough. I need a sign of your sign. I need a bigger sign. But the difference is that the way spirit communicates is subtle. So that's why they work through energy and inspiration and flashes of images and, giving someone the goosebumps or having a sign come through as a butterfly or things like that. Like, we all don't have to have these. Spirit's not going to communicate. I'll put it this way. Spirit's not going to communicate through you by hitting you and slapping you in the face with a sign. It's subtle. Sometimes you do get those slaps in the face as signs. I've had quite a few signs slap me in the face, and I've always taken the time to appreciate them, thank the sign that has come to me, and move on and take it as reassurance. So I know that was a lot of topics there. So much we can dive into. That is just an introduction to what mediumship is. We kind of went into the mediumship experience. I even talked about some ghost stories there. And definitely will be more topics coming up. So if this is something that you enjoyed, it definitely is just a little taste. I could definitely talk for hours about this, which is why this podcast exists. So again, if you are interested in hearing about a topic or you have a question for me, I would love to answer you. I have people frequently message me, DM me, email me questions and things like that. I love doing that. I love sharing knowledge. I am not a gatekeeper of anything. So if you have questions or a topic that you want me to answer, I'll do so here on the podcast. And thank you so much for listening and being open. And I hope to connect with everyone soon. Take care.